Well, good morning, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started here. Thank you so much for your lovely greetings in the chat. My name is Maria Gabriela Ochoa Perez Wechter, and I am a Senior Outbound Product Manager here with the Experiences team. I am joined today by Brad Tilton, an awesome coworker of mine who will be in the chat, chatting and answering questions in the Q&A. There may be a lot of us who are not familiar with how our academies typically go. So let's just go over some quick housekeeping. Please use Q&A for all questions. It helps me gather up all your questions and post them on the post after the session is over. Use the chat for comments and the Q&A for questions. And this session is being recorded, and the slides and video will be made available this Friday for our, when you signed up, you probably went to a big community post that had a whole bunch list of them. Each of them has a link to their own events on the community. And on that event page, I'll post the video, the slides, and the Q&A from today's session. So that way you guys can go back through and re-experience the magic or, catch up on something, maybe if you missed it or not. The most important thing to know is that these sessions are for you. Please ask questions and interact. We have a whole hour of Brad's time to ask as many questions as we want. It's not just a presentation. Typically, we're in the product configuring it live, but this time around, we may not get around to the demo. Who knows, depending on the amount of questions we get. And we'll be back soon, but not too soon. Typically, these sessions happen on the third Wednesday of every month, and they are at 11 a.m. Eastern. But this time around, we are taking a break in May for the Knowledge Conference, which I'll talk about here shortly. And then our June session landed on a holiday. So our very next Academy is going to be July 17th at 11 a.m. Eastern. And now, Knowledge. How many of you guys in the chat are going to be going to Knowledge? I wanted to share some fun photos from Knowledge last year. It's fantastic. You can see the real height comparison between me and Brad. He's hilariously tall, or I might be hilariously short. But I also wanted to highlight some awesome sessions that my team is going to be doing, as well as highlighting other ones that are going to be available. Live UI Builder Live, if you're into the more technical side of things, you want to learn more about UI Builder, we have a twice a month show called UI Builder Live. We host it on the Developer Advocates YouTube channel. It's on the second and fourth Thursday of every month at 4 p.m. Eastern. And we basically go in unscripted and just try to make something happen in UI Builder. It's a lot of fun. It's a very, very casual environment and a great place for you to ask questions like these academies. These academies are a little bit more high level. They're meant for product owners, admins, developers alike. We don't go too technical, but we teach you the things you need to know in order to be able to Google it yourself and move forward with it. We also have a great lab by Brad building a killer single page app with UI Builder. We also have advanced workspace configuration. And then the Crafting Workspaces Like a Pro is an introductory level workspaces lab that it's going to be great if you're just getting into workspaces, you're just getting started. It's a great place for you to start with. I also have a theming mastery lab. That's going to be a great place to get started if you're interested in theming your environments as well. Some other sessions that we'll be doing are our Ask the Expert session. They keep adding sessions to these, so keep checking out the agenda builder if they are full. Something to note, if any of these sessions are full, you still want to try to see if you can get in. They are letting in walk-ins about 5 minutes before the lab starts in case there's any open seats. So it's always worth a shot standing in front of the room and queuing up to see if you're let in before the event starts. And then finally, some awesome ones that weren't necessarily made by our team. We have Travis Tolson's You Sunk My Mothership. He literally is building the game Battleship in UI Builder, and he's going to teach you how to hook up the components in UI Builder, and it's going to be amazing. I'm so excited. And then we have kind of a special preview. We'll talk about Safe Harbor in a second, but something awesome is releasing in Knowledge, which may or may not be related to a design system. So if you're interested in that, these are two sessions highlighting the design system at Knowledge that you should totally check out. I'm sure we'll cover it in a future academy though. Now, my favorite slide, Safe Harbor. Safe Harbor basically means that you should only make purchasing decisions based off of what is currently in general availability for our software. Don't go making purchasing decisions based off of any forward-looking statements I may make in this presentation. Now, I don't think there will be very many of them, but just in case, I always like to have this in here. Now we're going to talk about our journey to replatform. I want to kind of give a little bit of background for those of us who might be newer, and just a walk down memory lane for those of us who have been around this whole time. We started our multi-year journey to replatform our user interface all the way back, starting with Quebec and Rome. We began deconstructing our agent workspace product to make it more configurable by customers. And we did that by creating the configurable workspaces. Get it? Configurable? We launched our first configurable workspace for customer service management in Quebec, alongside the new UI Builder and the configurable workspace template for App Engine Studio. In San Diego, we released the Next Experience UI, which bridged the gap between the configurable workspaces and the classic environment lists and forms. And now users can work in both ways of working without tabs popping up everywhere. In Tokyo, we made configuring UI Builder pages easier. In Utah, we released Theme Builder to make theming your instances build much better. In Vancouver and Washington, we've really focused on making the Builder experience even easier to use. And I want to say that Washington honestly has had some amazing improvements with UI Builder that I'm going to get to highlight here in a little bit. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the architecture. And again, this is just setting kind of some basics. The whole point of today's academy is to give you the tools and kind of the baseline level vocabulary terms for you to be able to help yourself find the information you need when you get stuck. So don't worry about memorizing everything I say today. Just remember that this is a great resource for you to get started with and for you to reference whenever you get stuck with something or you're unsure about the terminology. We're always also available. I'll show you resources at the end for you to ask us questions or come to one of our future academies and ask questions. We're always happy to help. So the Next Experience UI framework, AKA you may have heard it be referred to as Seismic, which is the internal name. It also used to be called the Now Experience UI framework, which is still what the menu item in the instances are still called, or it could also be referred to as a UXF. It's React-like, but not React. Don't do what I did and go and try to teach yourself React thinking you'll get anywhere, because you won't. Not really, but it'll teach you the good basics of like event-driven development. It's really cool. And states and stuff. It's built out of standard JavaScript web components, and it's really helping us standardize our platform on a single UX framework, which is really awesome. If you're familiar with the likes of Jelly, AngularJS, service portals, and just the giant mix of things we've had up until today, the standardization is very nice. Now, some terminology, and I'll be going back over these throughout the rest of the presentation, so things will kind of make more sense. For the Next Experience UI framework, like we said, it's our new JavaScript framework built on web component standards. The Next Experience UI is the user interface that we released in San Diego, which is built on the Next Experience UI framework. Configurable workspaces are the new way of working that replace working out of lists and forms. We also call this Workspace UI. Agent Workspace was the first iteration of workspaces. They weren't as configurable. They came out in Madrid and they have been replaced by configurable workspaces. And then we have Core UI. You may know this as UI 16. And it's the interface that's used when Next Experience is disabled. If you have had a brand new instance recently, you've never even seen Core UI most likely on your instance, because all of our new customers default to having Next Experience enabled. And as of Vancouver, if you upgrade to Vancouver or any version after Vancouver, the Next Experience UI is automatically turned on by default. Now, what do the two look like? Kind of the easiest way to think of it is one is purple and one is green, which only really applies if you haven't had any custom theming done to your instance. But another easy way to tell them apart is how the menus work. With the Next Experience UI disabled, you've got the Core UI, which is on the right side, and you can see it's green and it's kind of very blocky. And you see the menu on the left on the back screenshot that you can't unpin it. You can only hide it away. You've got your three little columns with your menu lists, favorites, and history. Whereas with the Next Experience UI enabled on the left, you've got more of a streamlined experience. You can unpin the menus. You've got several multiple menus. I'll talk more about these, like your all favorites history, admin configurable menus, things like that. What's really awesome about the Next Experience UI is that literally nothing needs to change. If you adopt the Next Experience UI, that doesn't mean you need to go adopt a workspace immediately. It just changes the colors, it changes it brings a whole bunch of quality of life improvements, and it makes it a lot easier to configure certain things, which I'll go over, but also your forms and lists, how you're used to experiencing them in Core UI, they don't change. You can still access every part of ServiceNow as it used to be. It's just gonna have a much prettier CSS laid on top of it. And now we're gonna get into the meat of things, the Next Experience features. And this is likely gonna take up a bulk of our presentation today. So just feel free to take some notes, ask some questions in the chat. We'll address them as they come up. Brad will speak up if there's any good questions that we should address live, or we'll be answering them in the chat in the Q&A for you. First, let's hit on some unsupported features. There are some unsupported features that we're still working to full parity between the Core UI and Next Experience, but these are some current highlights that I wanted to just quickly touch on as of Washington. We've got things like the live feed, field washer, and DOM manipulation. You can't really do that with Next Experience. Editing or creating home pages is not really able to be done here either. But I do want to note that Connect Chat has now been replaced with Sidebar, and Connect Support has been replaced with Agent Chat. The Automated Test Framework, or ATF, does support the form and list components in Workspaces, and it still has full support for non-workspace forms and lists. And this is what I meant by when you enable Next Experience UI, you don't lose access to how ServiceNow currently works with Core UI. It's still all there. The only difference is now it's a lot easier for you to access workspaces without them opening in a new tab. We've also got platform analytics dashboards that are supported. And I want to make the note that unsupported features can change each release, and you should check release notes for more information. That is the best way for you to stay up to date on everything. If you've got your deltas for your certifications, that's another great place to stay up to date on any major changes that we make. And now we're going to start on some of the features. I wanted to hit on first the unified navigation. And this is what we call the menu up at the very top. That bottom screenshot right there, you can see we've got the all menu currently in an unpinned form. And you've got the little pin right here, so that way you can pin it to the side or not. You've got these multiple different menus, and just this right here is the entire unified navigation. And we'll be going over a lot of features that concern it. It provides modern aesthetics with an extensible top menu system, and you can access workspaces you have access to. In this screenshot, the Workspaces menu is kind of hidden by these three little dots right here. And you can seamlessly switch back and forth between forms and lists and workspaces in here. Then we've got the landing page. The out-of-the-box landing page is what you see here, and it's shipped with the Next Experience UI. Using UI Builder, you are able to set up different variants to show different pages according to what audience and persona you want that page to look like. And you're able to show all different types of content like lists, performance analytics, data visualizations, and a whole bunch of stuff using the components in UI Builder. Now, this is a really cool feature that came out in Tokyo, the admin configurable menus. You know, some of you may have experienced this. I know I did when I was in tech support. Anytime you onboard someone new with Core UI, you have to basically have them set up all of their favorites. So that way they can have all of the links that you want to send them to, like my team's tickets, my open tickets, tickets that haven't been touched in so long. And it's a pain. With admin configurable menus, now you can create your own configurable menus that you can filter for specific personas, and you can add any number of menu items on there that'll make it easy to onboard new people. This is a really awesome feature of Next Experience UI, and it's one of the reasons why I really think that everybody should be using it by this point. We've also got multi-menu filtering. It's really awesome. If you just click on the filter in the menu, you can filter through any of your other menus that are available there. Workspaces show up on there. History does not show up. You should filter directly on that histories menu, but this just makes navigating a whole bunch simpler. We've also got favorites grouping. The favorites in Next Experience are such much better experience than they were in Core UI. You've also got this little app pill right here. I should probably switch to a more brighter green. Let's go. There we go. That's super bright. This little app pill lets you do a quick shortcut to favoriting. You can also favorite in different groups, and it makes it a lot more configurable, and you can do a lot more things with your favorites now. It's really awesome. We've got history details. It shows 30 days of results by default. It's got much better date time stamping than it previously did. And it does show history from your lists and forms as well as your workspaces. I'm taking a quick look. Brad, are there any good questions? Stefan has a question. Does Theme Builder support variants in Washington, D.C? This is a great question. As of Vancouver, we've renamed variants for one of two purposes. Variants are for accessibility variants, which are things like dark mode or color contrast mode or color blindness mode, things like that. That's what we're calling variants. Now we're calling any cosmetic changes alternate color palettes. And as of Vancouver, Theme Builder has been able to support alternate color palettes, creating them directly in there as well. Something really awesome that's come with Washington is Theme Builder can now do component level editing, which really makes it a lot more flexible and a lot more awesome to use. But yes, it does support it in Washington, D.C. Anonymous attendee, that's a very good question. Can the images like the spaceman be replaced? And that is something that the Theme Builder team is looking into. Kind of a safe harbor statement. I can't quite remember what version it's coming in, but it is coming in a future version that you are able to make themable images. I am pretty certain that that's a thing that's coming very soon. But I don't want to say specifically when because I can't remember it off the top of my head, but that is something they're looking into, and we've done great work towards getting that figured out as well. I'm very excited. We've also got configurable in-product notifications as part of the Next Experience Unified Navigation. You can define in-product notifications to display and use conditions when the notifications trigger to determine who receives the notifications as well as the content shown. There's a little bell that shows a count on how many notifications you've got. And for example, when a specific change is done on a record and the assigned to is notified, it'll pop up right there on their view. Any other questions that you think we should highlight, Brad?
There's a question that just came in. I don't know if you're going to get to Theme Builder later on, but there's a question around Theme Builder against service portals, basically.
So this is a great question, and it's something that's actually kind of hotly debated internally. We still haven't determined the full future of the Angular versus Seismic experiences in terms of that. Currently, Theme Builder does not support Angular portals, and I'm not quite sure if it will in the future. Something to stay tuned and find out in the future. I do wish it would, because as a Next portal developer, I feel the pain of trying to theme an Angular portal. I feel you. Karen has a great question. Brad mentioned the lab guides will be available after Knowledge. Where will you be able to get them from? Previously, lab guides, some labs were made available through Now Learning, like my Angular portal Tamagotchi lab was made available in Now Learning, as well as Brad's Build a Killer Workspace experience with field management. We do have some plans specifically in our team to hopefully provide the lab guides for all of our labs, which we'll be announcing at a later time. But definitely keep an eye out on Now Learning for the place where those lab guides should show up. Yatharth has a good question. They recently switched to Next Experience UI from Core UI, and there's some users who are saying they aren't able to see all notifications under Show Notification in the new UI. I would definitely check with support when it comes to that to see if that's an issue that's going on or if it's a configuration that may need to be changed. Chris and I am very excited for themable images. Banner announcements. Hang on, I totally just skipped guided tours real quick. An adoption blocker previously was that guided tours did not work on Workspaces, but as of Vancouver, the interoperability of tours has been improved. So now you can create a tour in a workspace and move to a classic page, to a list and form, and then back. It's made it a lot better to use guided tours on Workspaces now. Banner announcements is something else that I want to highlight. They were originally released in San Diego, and we got a lot of feedback on how we can make these better for our customers. Now there's an option to make the banner announcements non-dismissible and non-stackable. By default, you would be able to press the little X in the top right corner, but a lot of our government customers had a use case where they wanted to have certain disclaimers or disclosures as part of the banner announcements, and they wanted them to not be dismissible. So as of Vancouver, we've made this update, and it's made it a lot more flexible, and we fit a lot more use cases with our banner announcements now. You are able to filter them according to users based upon group or role. You can set a specific start and end time, show links, icons, and change colors according to the urgency of the announcement. This is one of my favorite Vancouver features, the Instance Tool Utility menu. Now, if I can take you back all the way back to Core UI, some of you might remember how there used to be a little bit of text right below the ServiceNow logo where you could use to put in stuff like the last clone date. You could put in instance information, what instance you were on, things like that. Also, the application scope and update set pickers were displayed in the main platform header area, but then they went away when Next Experience UI was released, and they were kind of hidden away behind a little globe button. Now you have the ability to enable the Instance Tools Utility menu for administrators, and that system property right there is how you can enable it as of Vancouver. It shows you the contents of that system property that I talked about went away. You can see it right now where it says Service Management, which is fantastic. And it also shows you it's going to expand in utility in the future. But right now it shows you the application scope picker, the encryption picker, the update set picker, and the domain picker. If there's any kind of stuff you might want to see on there, let me know and I'll bring the feedback back to the team. We're always looking for great ideas on how to improve the system. And then last thing I want to touch on for this specific product line is the Polaris theme and the dark theme. And I just realized I should probably have moved this to the next section, but whatever, we're doing this live. I just wanted to point out the Next Experience UI ships with the default Polaris theme, which is the purple theme that you see. And it has a dark theme variant that got greatly expanded as of Utah. It now extends to workspaces, forms and lists, dashboards, report, knowledge articles, catalog items, visual task boards, and much more as of Utah. And I put in here some top frequently asked questions that I felt would help answer some of your questions that you might have in the chat. Does the Next Experience UI have to be enabled to use configurable workspaces? Short answer, no. Long answer is listed there. We do recommend using the Next Experience UI to provide a more seamless user experience and a more modern user interface, and all of those quality of life improvements that I just went over. Is Core UI being deprecated? No, customers can continue to use Core UI if you wish, but be warned that a lot of enhancements might be coming for Next Experience UI and will not apply to the Core UI app shell. And what does a user see when they log into the Next Experience UI for the first time? And it's that landing page that we talked about, as well as the onboarding modal that will describe the new features of Next Experience UI, such as the menu pinning and other navigational items. Let's take a look at the Q&A. Are there any we want to address live, Brad?
Not yet, I think. Let's go ahead and keep going.
Awesome. Next thing I wanted to touch on is theming. Now, as of Utah, we have an awesome new builder called Theme Builder, and it's a platform feature. There is no fee, but you have to find it in the ServiceNow store. So that means you have to go into the store and download it from there. You can go to your plugins menu item and open up the application manager and download it from there. It's a super quick and easy way for you to get theming done on your instance and make it super accessible for anybody to do. You don't have to be a CSS wizard anymore like you had to be with Core UI in order to get your custom theming and branding going in Next Experience UI. You can preview a theme on multiple different sections of it, but I always get asked, when should I customize? And I like to think of theming as 3 different levels of theming, the 3 tiers of theming. Number 1, and this is kind of worded towards partners, but this applies to everybody. Do you need a dark theme? If you do need a dark theme, we suggest you stick with the out-of-the-box Polaris theme. Pros, there's 0 effort. but con, there is no brand new customization. Now, we suggest you stick with the out-of-the-box Polaris theme because we have tested that dark theme and we know it works. Are you able to create your own themes? Yes, you are. And the next couple of guidelines are what happens when you want to create your own theme. If your customer does not need dark theme and they want custom colors, you should use Theme Builder. Pros, it's super easy to use. It gives you a great level of customization, but there are some customization levels that you cannot reach through Theme Builder. You don't get very much control in it. We are adding more and more features with every store release. Like for example, in Washington, we've added component level editing. I know they're looking into making more in-depth changes for the Unified Navigator, but I don't know what release date that's going to come in. But it's going to get much better. We're still very early in the lifetime of this builder. And if your customer does not need dark theme and they want extreme customization, it's time for a custom theme. The pro is that it's super customizable. You can do almost anything you want as long as there's a theming hook. The cons are huge though. The biggest one that I want to point out is that it can be extremely time consuming. It will require in-depth CSS knowledge. There's going to be a lot of trial and error. There is no official support. You are on your own. It's difficult to maintain. It is technically not upgrade proof, although we do take steps to make it as upgrade proof as possible. But again, no guarantees. And you can only change what there are hooks for. This is another great plug for my theming lab that's going to be coming out at Knowledge. It's a great way for you to learn what more in-depth theming is like. I'll first go over what Theme Builder does. We'll be building a theme there, and then we'll be going through and expanding upon the theme. Something very important to note. If you make any edits to Theme Builder to a Theme Builder theme outside of Theme Builder and go back into Theme Builder and make changes, you'll lose all the manual changes you made. This is something that they're looking into, but there's currently no release for this fix. So be very careful so you don't lose the work that you've done. I always recommend you start a theme in Theme Builder and then clone it into a new theme record. So that way it's not linked at all and you can make all the changes you want safely. Let me take a quick look. Does Theme Builder come with Next Experience UI only or with Classic UI? The Theme Builder is only for Next Experience UI. It does not theme Angular portals. It does not theme UI 16 or Core UI. And it's only for these specifically the Unified Navigation app show. Sophia, is there a plan to have more out-of-the-box themes to choose from? There is this is a great community project done by one of my friends, Eric Reamer. I hope I didn't say his name wrong. If you look up in the share, in ServiceNow share, which is a site where people share their update sets, there is something called the UI 16 Classic Next Experience themes. I don't know. When you download this presentation, there's going to be some resources slides that I've got hidden right now that are going to have a whole bunch of links. This link is going to be in there. But he has gone in and remade all of our classic UI 16 themes into Next Experience. And he has like a dark theme for everything. They're super awesome. Really great work done. Hi, Eric. I definitely recommend if you want more themes, download his themes. As far as official ServiceNow themes, that is something we're looking at and will come in a future release, but I don't have a release date for that officially just yet. We are working, Shashir's asking, is there a plan for creating and delivering a theme for accessibility like color blindness? Our team is looking into accessibility related variants, and it's something that we're trying to see how we can address algorithmically, but I don't have a release date for that. It is something that they're working very hard on though. Theme Builder is only available for administrators. You have to download the plugin from the store, and only administrators have access to the application. That is feedback we have given the team in the past to potentially get like a Theme Builder admin role, but that's something that they're currently looking into. Oh, thank you. Eric posted the UI 16 Classics Remastered, the Retro Collection link in the chat. If you want to take a look there, it's a whole bunch of great themes. I use them for my instances all the time. Let me see if there's any other questions. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. I love Flamingo. It is my favorite theme, and Dark Flamingo is a blast. So now I want to touch on Workspaces and UI Builder very briefly. Just like I said, to give you guys some building blocks to build from when you're trying to get in more in depth on your future learning. Like I said earlier, there are two workspace types. We have agent workspace and configurable workspaces. The agent workspaces will look a lot more blocky, kind of square, green like you see there. They're older technology. They're not very configurable, hence why we made configurable workspaces. It's my favorite little joke to say. I'm sorry. If you're not already using an agent workspace, don't start. It's been replaced by configurable workspaces and they are not receiving any enhancements. Now, my team, we own workspaces, but each different business unit in ServiceNow, like ITSM, CSM, they each own their own individual workspaces. And it's up to each individual business unit to upgrade and create their configurable workspaces to replace agent workspaces. I want to say we're a lot of the way in that transition, but like I'm going to say in a couple slides, each workspace is very independent of each other, and you should look at each individual workspace's documentation in order to get started and identify what your next migration path is. Configurable workspaces are our current recommended solution. Our recommendation is to implement workspaces created by ServiceNow first. And if a ServiceNow workspace solution is not available, you can use App Engine Studio to create a custom workspace. Where to start with workspaces? I kind of led into this from the last one. Like I said, start from one of our 50+ configurable workspaces. Most product lines have a workspace, and workspaces are built to be configurable. You should duplicate the page, create a variant, add new pages, make it work to what you need it to work. If you absolutely cannot make a out-of-the-box workspace work for you, there is two options. You can either, if you're licensed for it, use App Engine Studio to create a workspace, or if you're not licensed for it, it might be a little bit more difficult and more manual work, but you can create one from scratch. We actually have a full episode on how to create a workspace from scratch on one of our previous academies in this playlist that we strongly recommend you take a look at, because we went over everything you need to know in order to create one from scratch. You may not be able to fully replicate some of the out-of-the-box workspaces because they have their own custom components and custom functionality, but creating a custom workspace is a great option. And I'll talk about when to create a workspace here in a little bit. Like I said earlier, every workspace is different. You should really find the workspace specific documentation when you're trying to get started on anything workspace related. They're all made differently. SOW is my favorite example of an amazingly documented workspace that does things completely different from everybody. It's a blast. You should really take a look at it if you have a chance. Now, where do we edit? Where do we create these things? We've been talking about UI Builder. And UI Builder is a page builder for the Next Experience UI framework. Here you're able to build pages and it's super customizable. It's going to feel a bit different if you're coming in from like building a service portal. It's going to feel a bit different. It's very heavily event-based. Everything gets triggered with events. You are able to bring in data from the server, buy data resources. This is where you would make variants of pages. You're able to do more in-depth component level styling here. And now you're able to create pages using column-based layouts like Flexbox or CSS or Grid. And they have a really easy to use column system now as of Washington. Pictured is Brad's Fleet Vehicle Management Killer Workspaces Lab. This is a lab that we have on Now Learning that you can go through and create a fully custom workspace. And he goes through everything you could ever want to know about building a custom workspace. And it's really useful to kind of get you more used to building in UI Builder. I think the biggest difference that there is between building a service portal and building a workspace or UI Builder experience is the component library. When you're building with Service Portal, you really need to heavily rely on something like Bootstrap and to really give you what the component library gives you already. UI Builder is it's highly complex, but at the surface, it's very WYSIWYG. It's what you see is what you get. You can drag and drop things onto the page. It makes it much easier than trying to script a widget from scratch. I strongly encourage you to just go in there and try to make something fun happen. This is going to be later in my resources, but Brad and I run a show, like I said earlier, You and I Builder Live, where we just make something fun happen in UI Builder. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. That's our new tagline. And it's just a lot of fun. Like one time we made a refrigerator app. And this is what I tell people who are just starting in ServiceNow: do something silly, like make a Dungeons and Dragons character sheet in UI Builder just to learn it. It's a great thing for you to talk about in interviews, and it'll really show how passionate you are about the platform and teaching yourself. And that's all enabled with the component library. You don't have to build a button from scratch. They've already got buttons for you. And there's a whole bunch of components that you can use to really make things happen that are really awesome. One quick note that I want to note is that the UI Builder has now moved to the store as of Washington. So now UI Builder is going to be able to get you a whole bunch of updates way faster than before. Before, we were tied to the version releases, which meant we could only get you updates twice a year. But now we have twice the ability to get you updates once a quarter. So if you're on Washington, make sure you check out the store and the application manager to update UI Builder and get all the awesome new features. Now, the next two slides are like the best slides. When I'm in a presentation live, I'm like, okay, people, get out your phones. It's time to take a picture. This is the slide you want. When to use UI Builder experiences versus Service Portal. Like I said earlier, UI Builder is our web user interface page builder for fulfiller experiences. It's built on and uses our ServiceNow JavaScript framework. It's very similar to React, and you can use App Engine Studio to generate a starter portal experience. But Service Portal is our web user interface portal builder for requester experiences, and I'll go into why in a second. It's built on and uses AngularJS as its tech stack, and the Employee Service Center is our currently recommended Service Portal. When to use UI Builder versus Service Portal, here's the awesome slide. If you ever need a shareable version of this, you can literally Google UI Builder versus Service Portal Brad Tilton, and his article will pop up right as the first Google search result. And then you can share that with all your friends and bosses. Like I said, UI Builder, the target audience are fulfillers because public pages are difficult to set up. Can you set it up? Sure. But we still suggest you use UI Builder for your fulfillers. You can make small departmental portals. You can make workspaces. Most importantly, it is not responsive yet. It does not have pixel perfect design, very limited support for service catalog, and limited support for ATF testing. Service Portal, on the other hand, you've got a target audience of requesters. This is still our recommended solution, and it's not going to go away anytime soon, really. It's responsive. It's got pixel perfect design. It's fully supported the service catalog, ATF testing, and public pages all work on there. Before I go into the resources, let me ask Brad if there are any questions we should highlight.
Not at this point. I think let me look.
Stefan has a good question about theming. Individual users can pick their own themes, right? Or can it only be set universally for the Next Experience UI? This is a tricky question, and I will definitely point you towards my theming lab that I'm coming out with in May, but also probably check out our theme builder lab, our theme builder academy that we had, I think last February. It's somewhere earlier in the playlist. But basically, we are currently looking into supporting multiple themes per instance. The way that we have kind of worked around it and done it now is you can create one theme record, and then you can have alternate color palettes and variants as children of that theme record. So you set that theme record as your instance's theme and theme builder, and you can create alternate color palettes as a Vancouver, and then those get served as options for your end users to pick from. In the future, we're looking at simplifying that. I'm not quite sure when that's coming out just yet, but right now what you're looking for is alternate color palettes and variants to fulfill that requirement. I would definitely, so Blaze seems to be reporting an issue where some Next Experience menus don't populate when clicked. I would strongly suggest you submit a support case, because even if you have found a workaround for that, and even if clearing the browser cache is what helps you, the more support cases that we can file on things like these will help us gather more evidence on how we can fix problems like these for other people as well, who may not have known about that workaround. So definitely help us document something like that by submitting a case, and let's see if we can identify what the problem is there moving forward.
I'll also add that is kind of a known issue. It has to do with the way the menus lazy load. There is a support KB that talks about it a little bit and shows a workaround, and we'll get that posted after the session, a link to it, because we had a couple of questions about it. But I also think it is something we have addressed where it should be getting better in terms of the performance of those menus.
Patrick asks, is the dark theme ADA compliant? I don't know the answer off the top of my head, but I do know that accessibility and being compliant with accessibility standards is something that's very important to ServiceNow. And I would be surprised if it is not, and if there are not plans to make it ADA compliant if that is not the case. But that is something that we will come back to in the Q&A when we post this event on Friday. JD asks a great question that kind of is going to lead into what I'm about to say in the chat. How can someone get started on the UI Builder learning? Stay tuned. Give me 2 seconds to get to those slides. We have some great questions in the Q&A. Brad is just rocking it. Thank you so much. Now here, the next couple slides are what I want to, if you get nothing else out of this academy, I want you to pay the most attention to the next 2 slides. Where do I go if I'm stuck? You should always go to community.servicenow.com. This is our official forums. It's a great place to ask questions and get help from MVPs, rising stars, other community members, and product managers like me and Brad, as well as other ServiceNow employees. We all crawl on the forums and take a look and help out. The Next Experience Center of Excellence is an awesome community article and location and hub for my team's content, and it's where we post everything. That is a short link for it. Then there's community resources like smdevs.com. It's a community-led chat server where I learned everything I knew and met a whole bunch of super smart people that all just happen to work for ServiceNow now. But it's a great resource to ask questions and get started and at least learn how to ask questions or how to Google things. That's the #1 thing that I've learned. Where do I go if something's broken? You should contact support. Even if you're able to find a workaround, like I said, it helps us by documenting the issues that are going on. It helps support know what needs to be addressed, and it also helps get you more resources for something that might be broken. And as always, if you have licensing questions, don't go on Reddit, don't go on community, don't go on anything other than messaging your account manager or your account team. Nobody else can really speak to any licensing questions as they apply to you or your customer other than the account team. And now that you've learned all of these basics, I really want to stress my team, the product platform team, we have a whole bunch of academies on every topic that we cover. And the academy episodes are meant to be standalone. You don't have to watch all 19, 20 episodes of our academy in order to be able to consume what we are trying to teach or what we're trying to convey. They are meant to be standalone sessions where you're able to go in and get whatever you need at the time that you need it in a timely manner. So if you find an academy that's covering the topic that you're trying to learn from that day, just watch it. And if you have questions, go on community and ask the questions, or come back and reference this video to kind of get more of a little background on what's going on. But I definitely wanted to stress that the academies are meant to be standalone and that you can find the resources you need, ideally without needing much more background than what we've given in this video. If you want to learn more, hey, JD, I got you. If you want to learn more, check out the Next Experience Community Product Hub, check out the Next Experience Center of Excellence. We also have Martin Brochu posted something in the chat, which is a great resource. It's also going to be in my hidden resources file. Developer.servicenow.com has great learning paths. That was, when I started, that was the only thing that was really available for us. There was no Now Learning. Go to developer.servicenow.com. They have some amazing learning paths. We also have the Next Experience in UI Builder courses on Now Learning. They have been updated for Utah. We're working on Washington updates. We're also working on an advanced UI Builder course. I don't know when that was coming out, but that's going to be awesome. We also have agent chat, advanced work assignment, and sidebar communities. There really is an endless amount of resources. We have YouTube playlists that you can walk through. If you're ever bored, on a Tuesday afternoon, you kind of don't want to do any work, you're tired for the day, tune into UI Builder and watch me and Brad have a lot of fun with the chat. It's a lot of fun. I learn something new every day. Brad sometimes get taken by surprise. It's a lot of fun, but it's definitely worth it. And if you want more of our Academy sessions, you know, the other ones that I talked about, here's a link for most if not all of them, I think. They are a great place, like today, to ask questions from the experts. They also go in demos. This was a very unusual Academy that we didn't do a demo, actually. It might be the first one I've ever done without a demo. Oh no. But check these out. They're great resources for you to learn from. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. We're going to take the next 6 minutes to see if there's any questions we need to answer in the chat. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. Brad, are there any questions we should address real quick?
A couple of comments. One of them for notifications. We don't have a ton of knowledge around notifications, but we will try to address those questions with at least a link to docs when we post the answers to the questions later this week.
We originally set up different themes that can be chosen in the user's preferences. Is Theme Builder only for the theme everyone sees, or can it be used to create themes for people to select? Yes, so Theme Builder can be used as of Vancouver to create alternate color palettes for each theme, so that way you can create themes for people to select from. Thank you all so much for tuning in and for the great questions. Like I said, I hope to post this video and the accompanying article and Q&A on Friday. So keep an eye out on LinkedIn for when I post all these links. Thank you all so much. Aaron, yes, Theme Builder can definitely help you theme your instances to make them more visible for which one is prod, dev, and test. That is another great use case for Theme Builder. Thank you so much, Brad, for helping answering questions and for keeping us on track. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you all have an awesome rest of your Wednesday. Goodbye.